A 5-year-old went into a Children's Hospital, Colorado, for a procedure to remove some tissue from underneath the tongue that was causing her sort of a speech impediment, making it difficult to say certain sounds. And it's a story about so many of the things that are wrong with our healthcare system. The doctor who did the procedure said, hey, to the mom, by the way, while your daughter is under anesthesia, we can also pierce her ears. She might like that. And the mom said, okay, that's fine. The bill for the operating room services related specifically to the piercing ended up being $1,877.86, nearly $1,900 for ear piercing. The insurance company said, hey, that's cosmetic and optional. We aren't paying for that. Just because ear piercings are cheap at the mall doesn't mean that they're cheap at a hospital. When a surgeon does ear piercing at a hospital during a surgery, it's no longer a Sunday afternoon at Claire's Accessories at the local mall, right? It is now a surgical ear piercing, which is actually really rare. There's only a few dozen cases that were uncovered by the Healthcare Cost Institute because, again, it's a cosmetic procedure and insurance doesn't cover it when you do it in a hospital. Now, eventually, after a long story that I won't bore you with, the mom made a huge stink and they were given a credit for the ear piercing. It was forgiven as a courtesy by the hospital. But there are many issues here to talk about, right? As far as this hospital is concerned, the mom is saying the doctor suggested that we do this without mentioning that it wouldn't be covered and it's cosmetic. And then they wrote it up as saying that I asked for it, which isn't true. And there's a whole bunch of issues as to whether the hospital and the surgeon were honest about this. But I want to talk about the systemic problems, which are way worse. And the real systemic problem is that $1,877 for ear piercing is actually in line with industry standards for these so-called in-the-hospital surgical ear piercings. And there are endless reasons for this. You can't blame just one thing. Prices go up because insurance will only reimburse part of what the hospital bills. If the hospital wants 150 bucks and insurance usually only pays 75% of what the hospital wants, well, the hospital needs to charge 200 in order to end up with $150. But of course, that's not all. You also have to make up for people who come into the hospital but without insurance at all. You have to treat them, right? You can't turn them away. And a lot of them will never pay at all. So if that accounts for 5% of the dollars you bill, well, you make up for it by adding 5% to all the prices so that it ends up being covered. These are crude numbers, right? But you get the idea. And then on top of that, ear piercing, like everything else, has to conform to the billing protocol, the medical billing protocol that's in place, which means that the doctor needs to spend time writing up the procedure in approved language. In this case, it was a bilateral, the bilateral lobules were prepped with betadine, and an 18 gauge was used to pierce the left lobule in the planned position, blah, blah, blah. That means that medical time is spent describing procedures, often for insurance companies, and that adds to the cost because it's time. And then everything is itemized in a way that you need a professional medical biller to even do it. That is an entire apparatus, the medical billing apparatus, that further increase the cost. So you get the idea. That's how we end up with a $2,000 ear piercing.
Do you think that the doctor suspected that this could have happened or just ignored it altogether?
I don't know.
I mean, you have to be straightforward with the family that this is going to cost you nearly $2,000.
There were some comments saying that the doctors aren't involved in the billing, so they're totally disconnected. Like the doctor genuinely may have just thought, hey, while she's under, let's pierce her ears, with no idea that, hey, these are cosmetic procedures that your insurance won't cover and will cost $2,000. I don't know the answer to that. But the fact that it was written up as something that the mom requested, even though the mom says the doctor offered it, is a little bit suspect. So this is horrible. There's no sign that this is going to get better. And under Trump, if anything, it's going to get even worse.